Hello, this is William Hempill, and thanking you for joining us today. We want to continue our series with the freedom of forgiveness. Want to talk about today the cost of forgiveness, absorbing the debt. We've been reading from Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 27. And I want to start with a personal story today. Some years ago, there was a person who was in my life who asked to borrow some money. Now, this person was older than me, someone I respected because of who they were and who they were connected to. This person promised that they would pay me back money within, I'd say, 30 days, but they never did. I was upset. I was angry. The person avoided me several times over and over again. And often I said, you know what? This isn't right. They lied to me. But I said nothing. And as a matter of fact, when I came around that person, they often stepped away and avoided me. So eventually, I had to forgive the debt. But here's the thing, the forgiveness came at a cost. I absorbed the debt. The money that I had given out was never returned. And honestly, just because of situations in life, the relationship with that person was never the same. That's when I learned that forgiveness always costs something. Well, in our passage of scripture today, Matthew chapter 18, verses 23 through 27, it says the following: For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. And as he could not pay, the Lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees before him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. So the Lord, a king, released a servant who owed 10,000 talents, approximately several million dollars, some scholars say, more money that he could ever earn in several lifetimes. So the king forgave the debt. But what that also meant is the king had to pay the cost of that debt. He had to absorb the impact of not having that money back. And so, want to talk about a couple points from that. First point is this: forgiveness means accepting a loss. Forgiveness is basically saying, hey, I won't make you pay me back emotionally, financially, or spiritually. When we forgive someone, we are releasing them from a debt. And I often like how the Bible talks about money because we can miss it emotionally sometimes, but that's the same thing. When we're saying that we forgive someone, I'm saying that you don't emotionally have to pay me back. You don't necessarily have to apologize to me or whatever else. I am releasing you from that debt. But here's the thing, the debt still must be absorbed. That emotional pain must be cared for. That broken trust has to be rebuilt. In other words, the emotional debt is real and it's got to be absorbed and accepted. So the first point is this: forgiveness means accepting a loss. The second thing is forgiveness feels unfair because it is costly. Someone said this one time: the math of grace will always look like a bad business decision. That's a point to ponder on. The math of grace will always look like a bad business decision. In other words, it doesn't necessarily make profit, it absorbs loss. Our hearts want repayment, our minds want fairness, and we are invited to have mercy and grace, because the math of grace may feel like a bad business decision, but it can end up being a good relational decision. However, at the time, it will feel unfair because forgiveness is costly. Number three, forgiveness hurts before it heals. Forgiveness hurts before it heals. We feel the sting before we feel the relief. I felt the loss of money from that person before I could feel the relief of forgiveness in my heart. We feel the loss of betrayal before we feel the relief of forgiveness. We feel the sting before we feel the relief. And releasing revenge means that we release protection. We open up our heart to be able to grieve. And I say that's important because grieving is often part of the healing process of forgiveness. We have to grieve the loss that we've absorbed. And then number four, Jesus paid the ultimate cost. The gospel tells us this. Forgiveness has a cross attached to it. Jesus paid that price for us on the cross. God absorbed a debt that we couldn't pay. We forgive because we have been forgiven. And then number five, and I found this piece to be so powerful. Forgiveness is an investment in our future peace. We're paying a temporary price now, but we're avoiding a much bigger price later. Let me ask you a question. Do you know anyone who is still mad about something that may have occurred 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago? Do we have splits in our families because of something that's happened 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago? That's a long time to hold bitterness and not have peace. Forgiveness is an investment in our future peace because it releases us from bitterness, from resentment, and emotional imprisonment to something that may have happened a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying we don't need to work healing or work on getting healing for the pain, but it releases us. Forgiveness is an investment in our future peace. So as we close, I'd like to say something. Forgiveness does cost us something, but bitterness will cost us everything. So, some questions to reflect on. Who have you been trying to collect a debt from? Whether it's an apology, an explanation, a changed behavior. Write down that emotional debt that we've been trying to hold on to and pray over it and ask the Lord, Lord, show me the cost of forgiveness and give me the courage to pay it. If this video has blessed you, please comment. Here's a question that I'd like to hear from all of you. What is the hardest cost of forgiveness for you? Thank you so much for listening to me today. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share this video with someone so it can be a blessing to other people. And please purchase a copy of my book, The Confidence Walk. You'll see the link below, www.confidencewalk.net, to help you silence your inner critic and lead with consistent courage. And if you'd like to contact me for speaking or anything else, please look at the address below, admin1@faithandfamilyempowerment.com. Thank you so much. I hope this has been a blessing to you today. And remember, love God, love people, and love yourself. Take care.